What up, IDS Mob? I am back, your boy Harry Wilmington. Welcome to the Introvert Dating Success Show. This is the show where you go to learn how to date as your introverted self while still getting your precious alone time. So I had a couple weeks of vacation, was off, grew the beard out, but I'm back now. And today's show, we're going to be talking about the 5 dangers to making a woman your whole world. You know, when we start dating women, it's very easy to get caught up in the romance of it all, the feelings of it all, and wanting to be there for her nonstop. But is there a price to pay for that that could be negative? So we're going to talk about what those things could possibly be and how to make sure that you do not get yourself entangled too much into the women that you're dating. Plus, of course, I'm going to be answering some questions that I got from comments over this past week. And of course, I'll be able to answer your questions. If you decide to leave a super chat or decide to leave a Cash App, I will happily answer your question during this live. So with all that said, let's go ahead and get into this episode of the Introvert Dating Success Show.
It's the Introvert Dating Success Podcast, the show for introverted men that's all about learning how to attract beautiful women and still get your precious alone time. And now, here's your host, dating coach and fellow introvert, Harry Wilmington.
And as always, guys, the show is brought to you by introvertdatingsuccess.com, where you can go there to check out my ebooks, audiobooks, and various programs, including my full-on course, the Introvert Dating Success Academy Community. This is where I house all of my best teachings from how to do online dating to how to get women to get into relationships with you within the span of 3 months' time of dating them. Plus, we have interviews with experts. All my ebooks are stored there, and it's a low monthly fee to have access to all of this wonderful information. So if that's something that you want to do, you can go to introvertdatingsuccess.com, check out the very first page. We would love to have you as part of the community, all right? So with that said, we're going to go ahead and just dive right into the main topic today because I think it's very, very important for you guys to hear about this. So, you know, when you become infatuated with a woman, you meet her, you date her, she actually agrees to go out with you some more, and you guys get along really great, you get into a relationship with her, all of that feels really great. And especially for guys that aren't in the habit of either dating all that much, or maybe you're a guy that hasn't had too many chances at being somebody's boyfriend, that is the kind of thing that when it first happens to you, it can, for one, be very overwhelming. You're gonna be feeling a lot of joy and a lot of happiness, like, oh my God, I finally made it happen. I finally got somebody that wants to date me. And then your brain's gonna say, and I'm willing to do anything that I can do to hold on to her. Now, for a lot of guys, what that usually ends up meaning is basically being a person that's at her beck and call and is willing to do anything to keep her around, even if it's stuff that you initially wouldn't wanna do or stuff that kind of takes away from your identity. It can mean you're trying to be there for her at all ends of the night and day. It could mean potentially taking on projects that you wouldn't want to do, but you want to make sure that you're pleasing her. And it can also mean alienating yourself from other various friends and family that are in your world up to this point. And like I said, like taking yourself away from your main crowd because she becomes the end-all be-all, you know? If you're having a bad day, you expect her to be the one to be there by your side, to pick you up, to give you a kind word. And to be fair, a woman that's in your life that wants to be your girlfriend, she's probably gonna be doing that stuff. But there's a difference between when a woman is actively volunteering to do those things and where you are solely relying on her to be determining how you feel about yourself and determining, you know, what your mood is that day. Whether, you know, if she doesn't text you back right away, all of a sudden your whole day's ruined and now you're upset because you didn't get the attaboy from her that lets you know that you're important, you know? And so there's this idea that they give in movies and in songs about how when you bring a woman into the situation, she's your end-all be-all. You should fight to the ends of the earth to be with her, and how you should be willing to do every single thing for her, and you should always be there for her. It should just be you and her. It shouldn't be anybody else in the picture. And, you know, media unfortunately gives us a very false sense of that we should as guys do that, in part because in these media spaces, the reaction that we see women having from guys that do this is that that's what they want. They want a guy that's self-sacrificing, that'll drop everything at the drop of a hat if it means being able to help her out or be there for her. Like we're seeing from media that women are responding positively to this. And so therefore we as guys then think, okay, so if I end up being that guy that's willing to sacrifice and make sure that she's the only one that can bring me happiness, that's what she's gonna want. And that narrative is just emphatically not true. For reasons that we'll go over for today, but a main one being that that's a lot of pressure. That's a lot of pressure to put onto one person. But why do we do that? Because women do this also. Women will, say that, it's the guy's responsibility to make her happy, and he should be there for her emotionally for all things. Where does that idea come from in the first place? Well, I will say it is very much a more recent feeling that people are typically having. And here's how this breaks down. So back in the day, if you were wanting to get with a woman, chances are it was probably a girl that was already in your circle. You have a family, and then you're friends with another family, and that family has a daughter. And so you guys possibly grew up together, or just the parents knew each other for a lot of years, and then you become of age, the daughter becomes of age, the families get together and say, okay, how can we make this happen to make sure that they get together? And so there was vested interest from the family to see that you did a good job picking the right person, and that ideally, it wasn't gonna just be somebody that you knew. It was gonna be somebody that the family already kind of knew and that they had a good vibe and feeling about. Because back in the day, it really was about community. The good thing about earlier on, before like social media came and this whole idea of like, it's all about me and individualism, is that because families were about community, they looked out for each other, and they also, more importantly, had other outlets that were available and established for you to go to. So for example, let's say you were feeling down and out about something. You could go to your uncle or a very close neighbor that was also a very close friend to the family and talk about it. If you were trying to get a job, somebody in your network had a connection that could hook you up with a job, right? And so the same is true for like your outlet for when you're feeling emotional about things or when you want to express certain ideas. Today, we're made to believe that our partner should be able to handle everything. They should be able to handle all of our kooky ideas. We should be able to say whatever we want to a particular partner, or spill out our guts and emotions to a particular partner. But back in the day, that's not really how that happened. Because, for example, I know that my mom doesn't like to hear cursing, right? So if I had a bad day and I wanted to, curse it out, a storm, whatever, I knew I couldn't go to her. But I had other aunts that were in the military I could totally go to. I had uncles that would not reprimand me for cursing, And that's just a small example of like why community is important, because if you don't have different outlets to go to, then the lie becomes that whoever's in my life as my romantic partner should be my sole source for everything, all my feelings, all my ideas, everything. And again, we've romanticized the idea that it's totally fine for that. Like your partner should be the end all be all for you to go to for all things. And even today, I find that is not true. Like I find, even if I'm with somebody that is well-meaning and I can have all the conversations in the world about things, I know there are certain ideals or certain things I may want to talk about that it's better for me to go to with my guy friends or with my relatives or with my, uncles and whatever, than it is to go to with my romantic partner. Now, because of how we live today, people might think, oh my God, that's not fair. If you're saying that, then that means you're hiding stuff from your partner. And that's not what I'm expressing at all. What I'm expressing is this idea that one person cannot be solely responsible for taking on all the things that you are trying to bring to a relationship. Much in the same way I would tell women, hey, if you had a bad day at work and you want to emotionally dump, your guy's going to be there for a portion of it, but he's probably not going to care a whole lot, and he's not going to understand the feelings you're having, because as guys, we tend to not have the same number of feelings negatively about things that women do. So it would behoove her at that point to go to another woman who can better empathize with what she's going through and the feelings she's having and not punish her guy for not having those same empathetic feelings, you know? For example, I'm a guy that if somebody were to just say directly to me, hey, go do this, and didn't say please or thank you, I wouldn't feel any kind of way about that because I would just know the thing needs to get done. But a woman might be at work and her boss says, hey, you, go do this. And now she wants to go home. Oh my God, my boss yelled at me today. He told me to do a thing and whatever. And you as the guy are gonna probably sit there like, that's not a thing. So in this instance, yes, she should be able to come to you and tell you about her day. But she should also have other outlets to go to if she's looking for an empathy feel. Because the reality is that's not gonna be true all the time on both ends of the spectrum, you know? So with that said, I wanna talk about, for you specifically as the guy, I wanna talk to you about 5 reasons why you as a guy placing all your dreams, your hopes, and your happiness on a woman can have severe consequences and backfire on you as a result. So, to start out with, number 1, there's a potential risk of you losing your personal identity if you are trying to make a woman your entire world. Because what you're basically doing is you're trying to center your entire existence around a particular woman that you're dating, which inadvertently could cause you to lose your personal identity. Now, the problem with this is that for most women, when they agree to date you, they're dating the person that they met. And how you were in terms of when you guys met, that's the version of you that she pretty much agreed to, you know? And it might have been the version that maybe cursed a little bit or, you know, did some, you know, more adventurous stuff than she's used to doing, but part of the reason women like that is because they want to date a guy that's going to pull that kind of stuff out of them that maybe they weren't hip to do themselves, you know? Now, with that said, that might come at the beginning with a little bit of complaining. You know, she might be the person that's like, oh, I don't know if I want to go to the gun range with you, or I don't know if I want to do this adventurous thing because it seems so dangerous, and she might even try to talk you out of it. Hey, maybe you shouldn't do the X, Y, and Z, whatever. This is not the time that she actually wants you to suddenly agree with her and then change up who you are to please her. If anything, because women are looking for you as the guy to lead, that really stands out more as a test on her end of things to see if you're gonna be a guy that can legitimately be a leader, or if you're gonna be a guy that's gonna be a sudden follower if she starts complaining too much about things, you know? But the point is that she's dating you ideally as a guy that has his own goals, has his own dreams, has hobbies that he likes, and she's not necessarily looking to change those things. So when you start to lose that, 1, you can lose your own identity, but also she's not gonna get a sense now of who you actually are, because how you presented yourself versus what you're turning yourself into as a result of trying to please her is going to not make her trust which version of you she's actually getting, and it can cause her to lose interest, all right? So that's the first major pitfall. Hold on a second here, guys. The second major pitfall to making a woman your entire world is having unrealistic expectations. When you are pressuring a woman to feel as though she is the sole reason for whatever you're doing, for chasing your dreams or for your happiness or whatever, that is a lot of pressure, and you're basically placing all of your emotional needs onto this one person, which again is very unrealistic. Her job is to be a helpmate to you and to add to your life. It's not her job to be your entire life. Again, it is a lot of pressure, and the reality is no one person can fulfill all the requirements you have as a person. Yes, there are gonna be some emotional needs and some physical needs that she can meet, but that does not mean it is her job to be the one to do all those things, you know? If you're looking for a partner that's going to cheer you on, for example, while you're playing video games, maybe she's not into video games. Guess what? Expecting her to suddenly change up to wanna watch you play, you know, video games or Twitch stream or whatever, that's not gonna be realistic. You getting butthurt by that because, but you're supposed to be my cheerleader at all times or whatever. Sorry, guy, you're gonna have hurt feelings about that, and that's not fair to her. Yes, again, the nice thing about women is that when they really like you, I'd say about 85 to 90% of the time, they're going to be there for you. They're gonna wanna be the ones to be in your corner and to cheer you on, but to expect that 100%, or to expect her to be the sole person to do those things all the time, that's when it gets into a situation where she can start to feel that you're over pressuring her to be things or do things that she doesn't wanna be, and you could end up losing her as a result of that, all right? So that's the second reason not to make a woman your entire world. The third reason that you don't want to make a woman your entire world is because it causes increased relationship pressure, all right? And so what that means is that it can start to feel very unbalanced on her end of things, because you're the one that's bringing the things to her about having to basically do all this stuff. And what you're basically doing is saying to her, hey, I need you to prove to me unequivocally at all times that you love me nonstop. And so if I ask you to do a thing, if I tell you you should be there for me for this certain thing, then you got to do it. And a woman's already gonna have that pressure on her. Like just being in a relationship for most women, they know they gotta come to the table and they gotta have a lot of things to try to keep you happy. I know we think that women are all about you gotta keep them happy, but trust me, women that have a good head on their shoulders, they're already in their head thinking about what things can I do to make this guy happy. And so most of them think they're doing a pretty good job. And even if there's places that they can improve, you can say, hey, you can maybe do this a little bit better, X, Y, and Z, right? But they're gonna already be adding that pressure to themselves. But for you to come along and say, and you can't go out with your girlfriends because I need you around me all the time, and if you choose to go to this event versus hang with me, then that is so much negative pressure that you're adding on to a woman that's already trying to love you as best she can, that she can start thinking, man, clearly nothing that I do is gonna be good enough for this guy, and I think it's time for me to get out of here. And you don't want that, So that's the third thing. The fourth reason why you don't want to make a woman your entire world is because realistically, guy, you have other relationships going on, and you neglecting your own network to try to rely on her, which is thereby going to make her have to neglect her network because she knows if she's not around you all the time, it's going to drive you crazy. And so now she's like being around you, but at the detriment of her own circle. That can cause resentment. It can cause a woman to start to think that you're being overly controlling and manipulative, and ultimately bring about a negative viewpoint. But more importantly, you should be nourishing the people around you and putting them in places to be there for you in other capacities. Like, it's great if your woman is there for you when you're going through things, or you're trying to build up a business, or you're going through whatever. But that shouldn't be your sole outlet. Let's say you have a parent die. Yes, you want your partner to be there, but also maybe you have things you want to express about the death that you realize based on the person you're dating, they're not going to be able to take certain information. That's when you have other guy friends or other relatives to go to talk about that kind of stuff. But to think that she doesn't need her own network to go to at times, or that you can't rely on your network, and that now that she's in play, that she should be your only person to rely on, that is a trap that a lot of guys get into before they even realize it. And I don't want you to be that guy. I don't want you to be that guy that gets into a relationship and thinks, okay, so now I've seen women do this. I've had women friends that get into relationships with guys, and next thing you know, you can't reach them. They're all about just being around their guy all the time. But then fast forward to they break up with that guy and they want to go back into the social circle, and they're all like, we haven't seen you for like a year and a half. Why are you here? And so I've been fortunate. I have female friends in my circle and guy friends in my circle that manage to find partners that aren't so selfish and aren't so needy of them, that they can still go out. I have a guy friend that got married, and he still can come hang out with me solo. He can still hang out with me and some of our other female friends solo, and it's not a big deal to that person. That's an example of having a healthy partner. But imagine if he'd been married to somebody that was like, oh no, you can't go out with your female friends. I mean, I have a group of friends that we all go out to the movies, right? And so it's me, my guy friend, and then his now wife, who sometimes goes to the movies, but isn't really a movie buff like that. Imagine if she was like, well, you want to go to the movies with Harry and some other girls? Oh my God, that's not... That would be a relationship dynamic that would be very toxic, and over time would start to build resentment. And so I don't want you as the guy putting that on the woman by making her neglect her circle and you neglecting your circle, because then later on you're going to be like, oh, I was sacrificing myself for you and I can't believe you. And nobody asked you to make that sacrifice. You did that. And then the fifth reason why you shouldn't make a woman your whole world is that ultimately, if you make another person your entire world, and then that relationship goes away, she decides to break up with you, she moves on, whatever, the world-ending feeling you're going to have is devastating, because you've now put all your hopes and dreams and emotional stability on this other person being there. And this is why, as a guy, it can be detrimental and just feel like everything's coming down around you when you break up with a woman. If you've made the mistake of thinking, yes, I got into a relationship and now she's the end all be all, and so my whole life is complete now and she's my full reason for happiness, guy, that is a dangerous place to put yourself in. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't be happy you're in a relationship, or that you shouldn't feel some kind of joy at the fact that you're able to bring happiness to somebody else. Like, it's perfectly fine to be happy that you're in a relationship, but not place your entire happiness being dependent upon if they stay or not. Because, hey, even if she doesn't try to leave you intentionally, she could, be unalive, she could die all of a sudden, and all of a sudden you're sitting there like, oh, my whole world is crumbled because I can't. And that should not be you, Ideally, you're with somebody that you're gonna be building something with, and it's gonna work out, but also understand that a part of you needs to always be like, but if it doesn't work out, yes, I'll be upset, and I'll grieve our time together not being there anymore, but eventually I know my self-worth. There are others out there. And I think that's partially why guys get so hurt in the end in general, is that a portion of us doesn't believe that if this person goes away, we're gonna be able to find better, or we're gonna find anybody that loves us on the same level again. Now, as an older guy, you can tell by the beard, I know that for a fact that's not true. That love will come and go. You might date somebody for a year, a month, 2 years, 5 years, 6 years. They might stay long-term, or they might go away. I found, when I've gone through breakups, yes, breakups, dissolving of a relationship absolutely sucks every single time. I can assure you, better comes along, and a previous situation that you thought was going to be like so harmful if it didn't like go all the way, you end up fine. If you're able to understand that your happiness is not dependent upon the person. All you can do in a relationship is the best job you can, and you trying to put somebody in a position of being your end all be all, that's not what's going to make this last long term. What's going to make it last is you being confident in yourself, you knowing how to lead a relationship, you trying to treat that other person the best you possibly can, and knowing that if they decide not to accept that, you did the part that you're supposed to do, and ultimately you are good enough. Now, if you're a guy that maybe hasn't had the best luck in dating, then it may just very well be that your confidence isn't at that level yet, because you haven't been able to actually see like you being able to date a woman, break up with her, and get somebody else. And that also speaks to like you knowing the ins and outs of how attraction works, how dating works, and what you need to be doing as a man in order to establish yourself as the go-to person for women to want to date. And if you need help with that stuff, I got a whole program called the Introvert Dating Success Academy Community that you can check out at introvertdatingsuccess.com. I have a slew of videos in that program that will walk you through how to do online dating, how to talk to women, how to attract them, the kind of dates to go on, the kinds of things to say to women when you're out with them so they feel like you're legitimately getting to know them in an authentic way, and the kind of conversations to have in order to get into that relationship after the 3-month mark. We also got interviews with other dating experts, as well as lessons on how to better communicate with women. Like the amount of stuff in this program, you could be watching for hours on end for like a whole year and still be learning stuff. But I do have things in that program that will actually give you a fast-paced walkthrough of how to go from dating a woman to actually getting in a relationship, as well as my various ebooks and audiobooks are there as well. And we have weekly coaching sessions, so you won't miss out on getting even more knowledge from yours truly. So all that's available for like $47 a month. You can go to introvertdatingsuccess.com, check it out. If you like it, you can join today. But hopefully some of this gives you a better understanding of why it is that you as a guy should not be making a woman your entire world. Like again, I do want you guys to be able to get into relationships and be happy in those relationships. I just don't want you making your whole happiness dependent upon how the woman is or if she stays or goes, So hopefully this helps you guys out. To answer your question, yes, I'm taking questions today. If you leave a Cash App or Super Chat of like any amount, then I will happily answer your question during the course of the show. All right. So now we've gone through the main crux of the show. I do want to get into some various comments that were left me during the course of the week. Also, guys, if you guys have questions you want answered outside of your show, I'm starting to record like regular daily videos now that are separate from just chopping up live show clips and putting them up there. So you can write to me at harry@introvertdatingsuccess.com in order for me to make a video about your particular question. But if you want that more fast-tracked, I highly recommend signing up for one-on-one coaching calls. They are available at the website as well, and we can set that up to where I can answer your question in a more in-depth way, all right? So let me put a little banner up here to start with. Boom, boom, boom. Let me just, save that and then show that. All right. So yeah, so if you want your question answered today live, then you can either leave a Cash App or you can leave a super chat, and I'll be happy to answer your question. It can be any amount, but you know, it is what it is. All right, so with that said, let's get into some comments that were left during the course of the week here. Let me see what I got here. Okay. So I'll answer this. This is a comment that was left under one of my videos. So this guy left a comment under one of my videos, and he simply says, oh, it was under my pull-away test video, the most popular one. And so this guy left a message under my pull-away test video, and he says, thanks for this really clear and understandable explainer. I've been out of the dating scene for a while and forgot about a lot of these basics. So I failed a couple and lost the girl. When you're in it and all the logic falls out, your emotions really do kick in and you do the exact wrong thing. You think you're showing her that you care, but you're really waving red flags, and ladies have a lot of options that haven't waved one, even if they're not trying. Well, and that's true. And so, you know, part of the reason that it's important to be regularly studying the videos that I put out or joining the Introvert Dating Success Academy community to listen to audiobooks and ebooks is because you want to have this stuff so ingrained in your brain that when you finally get a girlfriend and things inevitably will come up, she's going to have a complaint of some kind, or she's going to bring something to your attention, or she's going to start pulling away from you. If you have this knowledge already in your head about what to do next, then you're not going to be flying by the seat of your pants trying to think of a solution or trying to think of an action to do or a thing to say that's going to eventually cause you to mess up, right? Because to his point, when you could be doing everything right in the beginning, right? You could be listening to all my stuff and putting all my stuff into play to get a woman. And then you're like, okay, I got it. This is so great, man, blah, blah, blah. But during that time period, those first couple of months, there's not going to be a lot of emotional turmoil that happens. So it's going to be very easy to stick to the things that I'm talking about. But then inevitably, that first thing's going to come up and she's going to say a thing or do a thing, and you're going to feel it hit at your emotions. Now, when you were doing this stuff before, nothing was really hitting at your emotions other than just the lovey-dovey feelings that she was giving you because you guys were hooking up, she was kissing you, it felt all great, she smelled good, whatever, right? But now you come to a moment of turmoil and you're thinking, okay, what should I do? Well, Harry said do this thing. Oh, but that's not going to work, but there's a chance that what he said isn't going to work, so I'm going to try this thing instead. So for example, this guy, like when a woman pulls away, your instinct is going to say, I should reach out to her, I should, try to convince her or explain to her why she shouldn't go away and talk about why it is we match so well together. Or maybe I'll reach out and I'll apologize for, I don't know what I necessarily did, but I figure an apology is going to get me back in her good graces. And I tell you guys, if you just leave her alone, she'll eventually come back. I literally just did a whole video yesterday where I talked about this guy that came to my channel and said, hey, Harry, so I've been talking to this girl. We went on a couple of dates. She said, she flaked on the third one and said, hey, we shouldn't see each other anymore. And my response was, I took your response, Harry, and said, hey, so, I'm sorry to hear that. Well, best of luck to you. And if you change your mind, hit me up. But it's been like 2 days. What should I do? And then he waited. And then she reached out and said, hey, let's go out again. So he listened to what I was saying, but he said, are you sure your stuff works? Because I don't know. And that's the thing. When you're not in the practice of having done this stuff a couple of times, it can be very easy to suddenly forget all the stuff you're learning and try to go back to the old ways of doing things, even if those old ways weren't working, because those are what's most comfortable to you. And so I don't ever say that the stuff I'm teaching you guys, when you put it into practice, is going to initially be comfortable. It's going to feel like it's not really who you are. It's going to feel a bit weird at times. You're going to be sitting there wondering, okay, Harry said not to text her for 4 days, but I'm so used to texting a girl the next day. Oh my God, this feels so nerve-wracking. But if all I say is this, if what you were doing before was not working, you're not going to do any worse by trying my stuff. you know? So if you were texting women a lot before and you weren't getting results, and then you decide this time to listen to me and to wait a few days, you may get the same results, in which case you're back at square zero. But there's also a chance that you could get better results. And so a lot of times, you know, it's not a matter of you forget about what you're learning. It's about your emotions hit you when you're unexpecting it and you're suddenly like floundering again versus just looking at, okay, Harry gave me a life raft. Let me just count on his life raft. She brought up this thing where she's asking about my past. Oh my God, I'm nervous. Should I tell about all the people I hooked up with before? Oh wait, no, Harry said like, say things this way so you don't have to do that. Okay, I'll try it out. Like, it's gonna feel weird, you're gonna be thrown off kilter, but that's the thing. These things are all about you being tested and about being able to see that the things that you're learning actually work. And so sometimes that means when emotional things come your way, you gotta bypass the emotion of it and say, okay, but I have a plan in place, let me just try this plan. At worst, if the plan doesn't work, I can always go back to what I was doing that didn't work, or I could find another thing that would work better, but let me at least try this out, you know? And so I'm glad that guy wrote that because again, even at the age that I'm at, you know, I still have moments where I'm like, oh crap, okay, I know I should be doing this thing, but like, it really feels weird doing it, and then it ends up working, you know? So just wanted to point that out to you guys that maybe on this journey towards trying to figure out, you know, when things are suddenly going wrong and you start feeling your logic going out of your head, to go back to that logic. Because at the end of the day, yes, it's good to have an emotional center as a guy, but also your logic is going to be the thing that's going to get you through a lot better than if you become the overly emotional one in these various situations. Just wanted to point that out. All right, so we got a question in the chat. So like I said, guys, if you want your question answered today, you can either leave a super chat or you can leave a Cash App. It's $ Harry Wilmington, and I'll be happy. You can leave whatever amount of super chat you want to leave, you know? So we have a question in the chat, and the question goes, in your experience, as you mentioned, let the girl come to you. But did you ever notice yourself ever being too distant to where she may just think you don't like her, even though when in person, you show her you like her? If I see her at the same place, I will say hi quickly, but almost feels weird because I try to avoid it until we see each other, and I get the vibe she does the same thing. So, let me see how, let's read that again. Just find yourself being too distant to where she might just think you're nothing. So here's the thing, right? Like, in terms of being too distant, it really depends on like, how the scenario is set up. So for example, right? If you're a person that's like in school or you're at a job, the reality is you're gonna run into this person on a regular basis. That's not a situation where we're talking about like not trying, like I'm gonna avoid her at work and I'm gonna avoid her at school, whatever. Like we're not talking about that because in those realistic scenarios, you're seeing them on a consistent basis. But distance refers to like, you know, guys make the mistake of thinking they gotta be contacting her all the time. They gotta be asking her out for a date every single day. And that's where you being there too much is gonna cause calamity, right? So in those situations, that's where it behooves you to be a bit distant, you know, because here's the thing. The purpose of having built-in distance in the beginning is to help her determine if she wants more of your time and attention, at which point she needs to be the one reaching out to you to make that happen. Perfect example. I tell you guys in the beginning, you should be asking out women once a week. We do that in part because part of your being able to read if she's growing interest is her starting to say things like, hey, so-and-so, so, you know, I know we saw each other on like Tuesday, but there's a concert coming up this Friday or Saturday, and I wanted to go there with you. Let's do that. So now, because we've set up distance in terms of you're not trying to overindulge her with your presence, that gives her the space to reach out to you, to invite you to do things, to say, hey, why don't you come over to my place this second time this week so I can see you again and I can cook for you. In effect, this is what sets up the situation for her to chase you. And as I always say, if she's chasing you, she can't be replacing you. Part of the reason I tell you guys not to text so much is because for one, you're giving her space to feel for you in between dates when you're not in her presence. Like, what does it feel like to her when you don't talk to her all the time, when you're not there all the time? We want her to have that feeling, but also, we want her to feel out and think that, oh, I want to close the gap between how much we're seeing each other. And so that means I need to reach out in order to get him to want to see me more. And so that's what I mean by the distance thing, you know? Now, again, these are all very unnatural things. And I stress this because guys have a thing about thinking, oh, I gotta be my natural self and this and that. And so as a guy, there's the natural proclivity to not want to play games and to be able to see the people that we like. The problem is guys don't take into account the fact that we assess if we want to be with somebody a lot faster than women. And so after one or two good dates, we're like, you know what? I made my decision. It is what it is. And so I now want to invite her into my world all the time. And that's to your detriment because you're only taking into consideration your feelings and not taking into consideration what process she needs to actually go through in order to trust herself, trust her decision to date you, and want to see you more. So you creating distance is actually a positive thing, but it's not going to feel natural at all. It's not going to feel natural to hold back on talking to somebody that you already know you want to talk to. It's not going to feel natural to want to hold off and only see somebody once a week that you already know you could be banging right now and be seeing 4 or 5 times a week. None of this is going to feel natural. But here's the key important lesson for guys. Just because it doesn't feel natural doesn't mean that it's not right. Just because it feels not honest to not talk to her all the time or to see her all the time in the beginning doesn't mean that's not the right decision. Just like we tell women, hey, just because you feel a thing emotionally doesn't mean that that's actually what's going on. The same is true for guys. Just because you think that what you're doing is not honest doesn't mean that that's not the right move to make. And so once you get out of your head this idea about what it means for you to be an honest guy and what it means for you to date truthfully, then you'll start to understand and be able to observe that on the women's side of things, you're getting better results when you're building in that distance. And building in distance is nothing more than just like have a life outside of her. Like have other projects you're working on, have other friends you need to go see, have other things you're interested in besides just suddenly getting with her. Because look at this from the woman's perspective, right? You meet a girl on a date. She goes from literally not having known you to suddenly you're in her world. And now on your end of things, you're saying, and now you need to be in my world all the time after 1 or 2 times of seeing each other. Like to women, that is very weird and not natural at all right? So just take that into consideration when you're thinking about this whole distance thing. Just wanted to say. Somebody said, like the new look. Yeah, so I went away for a few days because I was doing other various things, and I was just like, you know what? I'm not on camera. I'm not having to film anything. I'm not doing any ads. I'm not doing any shows. And I just said, you know what? It's been a while since I've grown it out. I know I got more grays down here than I used to have, but let me just see what it looks like growing it out. And so this is what I've currently done. So it's not going to stay like this. I want to stress because I do other things outside of this show that, you know, I have to be on camera for. And so at the point that those things start calling, it'll probably get shaved off. But for right now, I'm like, you know what? I'll just rock it until I feel like I want to shave it. So it is what it is. But thank you. Appreciate the comments I've been getting on it. So there you go. So yeah, guys, I'm answering questions today. So if you guys have questions you want me to answer live on the show, then simply leave a super chat of any amount, or you can leave a Cash App at $Harry Wilmington, and I'll be happy to answer it. Otherwise, I'm taking into stock all these various questions, and I may answer them on future individualized videos. But if you want them answered during the show, then simply support the show by leaving a super chat of some kind. Okay. Let's see. Do you think anything else on here at the moment? So M. Pierre, I see your question. If you want to answer it on the show, this particular live show, simply leave a super chat or leave a Cash App. All right, so I have other comments that I got during the course of this week that I'm going to go over. So let's see here. So I answered that one yesterday. Let's see. Let's see here. Okay, this is a good question. Let me see here. Okay. So his question is, I got a comment from a guy, and his question is, would it be considered normal if a woman you have been seeing for a few months that you just went out with a few days prior has a very bad week due to it being the anniversary of a family member passing away, filled with anxiety and negative emotions, and she randomly blocks you without warning and no communication? He goes on to say, there was nothing I did wrong as far as I know, and earlier that morning, we were talking just fine, flirting, she was responsive and seemed happy, but later was saying how anxious she was. She has been crying and it was an emotional week for her. Okay, so this is one of those situations where this guy is really trying to be empathetic towards what she's going through. Because, hey, like he says, whatever, it's the emotion, it's the anniversary of the year of a close family member dying. And so he's thinking maybe she's suddenly acting all erratic because, for whatever reason, she's being emotional now, and that's causing her to want to block me and all this other stuff, right? So let's just say kudos to this guy for trying to be empathetic to what she's going through. This is not a thing. Like, I've dated enough, I've been in enough relationships to know one thing unequivocally, and it's that when a woman has high interest in you, or she's your girlfriend, or you're dating her, and she's going through an emotional thing, the first person she wants to go to is the person that she feels is going to be empathetic to her and is going to feel for her and is going to allow her to cry without judgment and to be able to, get out all the feelings she's having about a particular situation going on. Like, that's what women actually do when they're dating you and they're going through a hard time. So when I hear these days, oh, woman's going through a hard time and she decided to block me, that is indicative of a woman that had low interest, or she's getting her emotional feels from somebody else who's more there for her and that she actually likes a lot more. Like, I'm sorry, guy, I wish I could say, oh, you should be doing things better. Because as far as I'm seeing here, it doesn't look like you were doing anything wrong. Like, you were flirting with her this morning, she was responding to it, and then she said she was anxious or whatever. There should have been no reason for her to block you. So this does not read to me as a woman that is a safe enough level of sane, because again, woman going through a situation and she has high interest, she's gonna want to tell you all the things and be by your side. Even if you weren't there for the family member dying, even if you weren't there when things went down, you're gonna still be the empathetic ear that she leans on, Especially since she says they've been seeing each other for a few months. After a few months, it should be to the point where she trusts you enough to, at the very least, not want to block you on social media platforms when she's going through a thing. Like, ideally also by this time, she would have told you about said family member that died last year that she's feeling all the feels for now. So if she's not doing that, don't look at this as anything you necessarily did wrong. This just looks like a situation where she just decided in that moment, maybe she had a thing like, oh, this person died and oh, my life is short. I shouldn't be wasting my time with this person. But the point is, she's not doing action to indicate that she has high interest. So I would say that at this point, that is not normal, and that as much as it sucks, I would consider looking elsewhere for women that would have a more stabilized reaction when going through things. I don't know if that's the answer you want to hear, but hopefully that helps you out. All right, so we got a question in the chat from M. Pierre. So let's see what he said here. So we got a question in the chat, and the question goes, hey, Harry, it's been a minute. Yeah, I've been off. Would you take a girl seriously if she took 1 month to respond to you? She acknowledged the time, but gave a half-assed explanation, then sent a paragraph responding to me. He says, normally I wouldn't take this too seriously, but I also don't want to feel like I am the backup option. So here's the thing, guys. This is why I tell you guys that it behooves you to be indifferent to dating outcomes, because we'll answer his question first, right? So his question is like, should he take a girl seriously if she took 1 month to respond? So let's say he asked her on a date, and then a month later, she decides to respond and say, hey, sure, let's go out, right? I'm not a person that gets butthurt about that kind of stuff anymore, because the reality is, let's say I ask her out and she takes a month to respond. Well, I'm not just sitting on my feet waiting for her to respond back to me. I'm asking out other women. I'm going out and having a good time with other women. I'm potentially hooking up with other women. I'm letting women come and go as they please, because realistically, in the beginning, they don't have any ties to me. They owe me nothing. So if a woman that I ask out decides to wait a month to respond back to me, at that point, all I'm gonna say is, do I want us to go out with her or not? If the answer is yes, then I'll say, sure, let's go out. That's fine. I don't like that she waited a month, but the reality is, again, she does not owe me a right away response. And here's the other thing. I don't know why she waited. Like, she gave to her, and to be fair to him, he does say that she gave a half-assed explanation, but whatever the explanation is, I would not care, because all I care about is I got the date. Now, she's going to give you a reason as to why she waited a month, but we don't know what the actual reason is. For example, let's say you asked her out and then she went on your social media and saw something that like freaked her out. It might have taken her a month to get over the thing that she saw. Maybe she saw you with another girl, with your arm around another girl, and she was like, oh, he's already seen somebody. Oh my God, I don't want to date him or whatever that. So then she doesn't go out with you, right? And then a month passes. She says, well, you know what? I don't really know who that girl is. It could have been a cousin, or maybe it was an ex of his, or maybe it's a girl that he was dating but isn't dating anymore. But ultimately, I was tripping. Like, I didn't even give him the benefit of the doubt to find out who the girl was. You know what? Let me hit him up and say I'll go on a date with him, and then I can figure out on the date what was actually going on. Like, there are so many reasons why a woman would decide to not respond back to you right away for a date. I tend to be the guy that just doesn't care. Like, I don't want to have to sit there and think about the 1,001 reasons she could have come up with as to why she's responding back to me so late in the game. I just care, okay, she's responded back. She said she wants to go out. Do I still feel like going out? If I found somebody better within that month, then I'll say, oh, you know what? Sorry, I'm already seeing somebody else. Better luck next time. But maybe I just started dating one person, but we're not at the level where it's super serious. I might say, you know what? It's been a month. She still looks good, kind of want to hook up, and I think this might still be a potential. So I'm putting her on the lower end of things because I'm not taking her uberly serious right now since she's kind of like being a little delayed in her response. But you know what? I got a free day. Why the heck not? So this is where I'm saying, again, I'm indifferent, and I'm making the decision based on, do I want to have a fun time with her? I'm not basing it on, do I want to show her why she needs to choose me and putting all that pressure on myself to try to perform for her now. Like, I'm not in that space. So because I'm not in that space, I can make the decision to say, yeah, I'll see her. Or I could just say, you know what? She took a month and I don't want to. Like, either one of those decisions is fine. I just don't want you to have to put it on like, she said yes to a date, now I got to prove myself. No. She said yes. So now she has to prove to you why you're going to continue to ask her out after this next date. So that's how I tend to respond to things, is that, again, because I'm indifferent to outcomes, how and when she decided to respond to me is not going to make me butthurt. This goes back to, I don't make women my whole world. Therefore, how they decide to move is not going to affect my emotions or affect what I do. If she comes back a month later and decides to say yes to a date, I'm not going to be overly happy or upset or mad that she waited so long. I'm going to be like, okay, great. So let's go do a thing. Like, that's because again, I don't actually know her enough to have a full emotional investment in what she's doing. So her reaction and when she decided to respond, I don't have any kind of full investment yet. Now, we go out a couple of times and she decides to flake. Guess what, guys? I'm still not going to be overly invested because, again, she's not my whole world. It is simply either she's saying yes to dates or not. If she decides after 3 or 4 dates, she doesn't want to say yes anymore, oh, okay, that sucks. Well, back to my roster or back to find some others. Like, that's how I take dating. So those kind of things don't personally affect me. But if you're in a space where that kind of stuff still affects you, then that speaks to you needing to build up a more abundant mindset that's going to allow you to be able to not be so influenced by when a woman decides to respond. So, and you can learn all about the kind of stuff in my Introvert Dating Success Academy community. We have programs that talk about like how to build up better self-esteem, how to be more confident, how to be less anxious, how to move it about in the world when women are sending you, text that you didn't think they were going to send you, or when they get back to you at certain times. Like, we want you to have the feeling that you already know what to do and are not overly bothered by the moves women are making, whether they're in your favor or not, But hopefully that answer helps you out. All right. I went monk mode. That's so funny. Okay, we got a few more things I want to respond to here. Let's see. Okay, so there's this argument that guys always have about the idea of being themselves, about being their authentic selves and not having to change themselves for women. I've talked about that a bunch of times on this show. But I think this guy's comment actually nails down pretty well this concept, so you'll get a better idea of what I mean when I talk about that kind of stuff. So this guy, I did some video, and he said, I agree with this topic. Being yourself may not cut the mustard on a date. I may need to change for better effects. Example, I scratch my behind or I dig in my nose on the first date. Realistically, I do that at home. That's being myself. But if my date is displeased, then guess what? I need a new strategy. So that is a very, actually, I never considered using like actual physical examples, but that's like a concrete example. Like, yeah, at home, you're scratching yourself, you're, digging in your butt and sniffing your fingers, or you're like, yodeling throughout the course of your apartment just because you want to, you're talking to yourself. Like, those are examples of the extreme versions of you being yourself. But ideally, you have enough sense on dates to not do that stuff. So then you got to ask yourself, is also not bringing up certain topics or doing certain actions also okay to do, even if you feel like it's not you being your real self? And the answer is yes. People on dates are putting their best foot forward as it pertains to trying to give off the best impression to the person in front of them. And some guys might think, but that's a lie. Guy, I got news for you. It's not about the lie. It's about the fact that you're trying to build a positive image of yourself to the woman in front of you. Because here's the thing, later down the line, as you start to show more of your real self, the anchor that she has of who you are is who you presented on that date, which is the best version. And as long as she knows that there's a best version of you that she's gonna get at times, she needs to know that that's gonna be there to effectively make her feel things for you, because she's gonna think, okay, even if we get into a relationship and he's at home and he digs up his nose, he wipes his butt weird, I know that that's not him all the time, because I saw the best version of him when we first started dating, and I know I'm gonna still get to experience that, and that's a great thing. And women do it for us too, Women aren't gonna be in your day-to-day life wearing makeup, having their hair done, always saying the exact right thing to us that's gonna make us feel giddy all the time. Like, that's just not realistic, but that doesn't mean that showing that version of herself on a date does not behoove her to do that, So just some food for thought about that. We have a question in the chat. And again, guys, if you want your questions answered live during the stream, simply leave a super chat or a Cash App of any kind, and I'll be happy to answer your question, all right? I'm gonna fill up my water cup real quick, so I'll be right back. In the meantime, check out some of these awesome books we have available at the website. Hey guys, Harry Williamson here, and I just wanna tell you really quickly about some of the awesome ebooks that I have available at the website. So to start off with, we have my brand new book, Stop Losing Women, which is based off of my previous podcast, and it's over 284 pages of life-changing advice for your dating life. You're going to discover in the span of these pages the ins and outs of how to become more confident, the do's and don'ts of how to attract women, how to pace yourself during the dating process, and ultimately what it truly takes for you to be a more confident dater, so that way you can get out there, attract women, and more importantly, stop losing women, okay? The other ebook that I have on my website is called No Girls For You, The Ultimate Guide to Losing the Girl of Your Dreams. This is the first book that I ever wrote, and simply put, it is a 12-chapter masterpiece that is designed to, in a very funny way, mind you, guide you through the ins and outs of why all the things you're trying to do right now to attract women can actually cause you to lose them. I mean, things like being the nice guy, overextending yourself, getting too many gifts, too many compliments, and a variety of other things that you may think as a guy I should be doing. This funny book's gonna help you figure out once for all why you should not do those things and how to better yourself instead. So be sure to check that book out as well. The other book that's been very popular at my website is called Texting Like a Boss. This is where, for all you guys out there that have problems texting women or don't understand why she starts off so chummy in the terms of the texting things, and then she starts to kind of go away and you can't figure out what's going on or why, or you're not an efficient enough texter to be able to actually get dates by way of texting. Well, this book is going to give you 21 do's and don'ts that are tried, true, and tested, so that way you can get the results that you want with women when you're texting them, and ultimately not do the wrong things that are going to cause her to eventually ghost you in the texting realm. All right, so check that book out at the website. Lastly, my other popular book that I have there is called 10 Steps to Winning Back Your Ex, the step-by-step, no-nonsense guide to reconnecting with an old flame, regardless of who ended the relationship. And so for you guys that are like, hey, I think I lost a great one, and she left me and I want to get her back. Or you might have been the guy that's like, hey, I dumped her and then I realized I made a mistake and I want to get her back. Well, this book covers both of those scenarios in a very detailed step-by-step way that is designed to allow you to figure out what you did wrong, how you can show up better, and the sequence of events you need to go through in order to effectively win back the woman that you are no longer with. So if these things sound like things that'll be helpful to you, then definitely go to introvertdatingsuccess.com, click on the products tab, where you can find a summary of all these books as well as my various programs, and they will be more than happy in helping you figure out whatever part of the dating journey you're on, so that way you will not be confused and you will ultimately be able to have the dating life that you want. So check those out at the website today. And we're back. Sweet, sweet water. All right, guys. So there was the comment I wanted to go over that I thought was very interesting. So, how do I want to say this? Women oftentimes are wondering if, when they're coming to you with a problem, if you actually understand them, And what a lot of times the guys will do is a woman will tell them a situation that they're going through, and the guy will be trying to give solutions or tell them about what they can do to make things better, et cetera, right? And so there's this question often of like the woman saying, but like, do you actually understand what I'm feeling and what I'm saying? Now, as a guy, we oftentimes don't get that because we're thinking, well, I wouldn't be giving you a solution or situation to how to fix this thing if I didn't, on some level, either understand the thing or if I didn't understand how you were feeling, right? So there's a mix-up communication of language that happens. And so how is it that you as a guy can actually show a woman that you understand the feeling she's going through versus always giving a solution? Because that's the thing for women is important, is that they want to feel as though the guy that they're talking to gets what they're going through, because that's how they connect. They connect through, I have a feeling, I want you to have the same feeling. And as guys, we don't always get that. We think, well, but I don't have to have that feeling that you're having right now in order to feel that thing, right? So a guy's going through a situation with his girlfriend. She brings up a situation she's going through, and she's asking the guy, do you understand this? And he's trying to, like, again, give a solution. But what could he have done instead to make her feel as though he understands? Let's go through his comments. So he said, yesterday, my girlfriend and I were out for a bike ride, and suddenly she started telling me that she felt down because, in her opinion, she couldn't complete the thing she had in mind. And she always thinks about this. So that's what she said to him. So then he replied, he says, I replied that she is a hard worker and that she already does a lot, and that her work takes away so much mental energy that she has nothing left to dedicate to the other things in life. So before I continue to see what she said, let me ask you a question. Just listening to what his response was, right? Does it sound like he's actually giving life to her emotions? Does it sound like he's actually validating what she's feeling? Or does it sound like he's deflecting? Let's read that again. He said, so she said, I'm feeling down. I can't complete things. I always think about this. And his response is to say, but you're a hard worker and you do a lot. And so you get so much energy, like you shouldn't care about that. Now, why did he respond like that? Because in guy world, this kind of response works great. Like if I have a guy friend that's going through things like, man, I think I'm sucking at life right now. I'm not doing good at my job and this and that. As a guy, we want him to focus on the things he's actually doing right. So he'll be able to see, oh, you know what? I actually do have a lot of good things going on. Let me just completely ignore the negative stuff that I'm thinking of. And that works great in guy world. I can say to my friend, but dude, man, like you just completed this thing at your job. That was a really hard project. And you've been, working out, losing weight, and you've been doing all this other stuff. And so, dude, you're doing great. Like compared to where other people your age are, you're doing amazing. Because that works on guys. Because you're basically being able to logic a guy out of feeling bad about himself. And he'll be able to see that and be like, oh yeah, logically, I am doing these other things. So you know what? I feel totally fine. That doesn't work on an emotional being who wants their emotions to be validated first before they can feel good about themselves. Because for women, they just don't want to feel like the weirdo. They don't want to feel like the things that they're feeling are completely foreign to any other person in life, because then that makes her estranged, And women who are beings of community don't like feeling ostracized. And so they don't want to be feeling as though the thing that they're feeling is going to leave them out in the cold by themselves because nobody gets them. That is a very dangerous feeling for a woman to have. So you as her guy she's going to come to you saying things in the hopes that you're going to understand that there's a feeling tone behind it and that you're going to be able to empathize with that feeling so she doesn't feel like a weirdo. Most guys don't get that. So he said the thing about, but you're a hard worker, X, Y, and Z. Her response was, he says, then she just kept asking me, but do you understand me? Do you understand how I feel? He says, I repeated to her, are you looking for a solution or just comfort? Now, admittedly, on here, I've said, if women are talking to you, you can say, hey, so like, do you want a solution or do you want me to just listen? That, totally fine. But you saying, do you want a solution or do you want comfort? It's worded weirdly, and women are all about how words sound and feel, and that sounds like a little more like, I mean, geez, do you want me to comfort you or do you want me to like actually help you out? But anyway, so then he says, and she told me that I'm great when it comes to setting goals, like going to the gym, having a strict healthy diet, or other things, and I can stick to them in the long term, but she fails. So I told her that if she wants to be more energetic and not feel down, she should use the phone better by reducing the use of social media, which she's addicted to, and try to use that time for her own things. Start by this little change and see how it goes, and then eventually she can see the things getting done. So then he asked, what would you have said or done instead? This is a simple conversation, but if I got something wrong, what would you have changed? So again, here's the thing, is that it's not, men believe that women don't want the solution to their problems. And that is emphatically not true for most women. Some women are out there, they just want to complain all the time. I don't deal with those women. But most women, it's not that they don't want a solution. It's that the pathway to them being able to fix things starts with them feeling that the feelings that they have are normal. Once they feel as though they're understood and that their feelings are being validated, then they themselves, a lot of times, will end up with a solution. Or, at the very least, they are going to be now open to hearing what you have to say to fix their problem. So, for you guys that are all about, I just want to fix it and blah, 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 blah. If you fix the first problem she has, which is being able to emotionally connect and feel the thing that she's feeling, then you'll find the second problem of her being open to you and your solutions will be wide open. So, how do you do that? So here is a little secret trick for you guys. And this is why you guys should be joining the Introvert Dating Success Academy, because I talk about this kind of stuff all the time, right? Here's the thing. If you think back in your history, there is going to be a point where the thing that she's going through and the feeling she's having, you also had at some point in time. It may not be today, because you may be a guy today that's got things more figured out. You're more logical now. You're more confident in yourself. And so maybe you're not feeling that thing now. But if you think back in your history, there's a point in time when you did, in fact, feel this feeling, which means that she is, in fact, not feeling something that is so foreign to you. So let me give you an example, right? So I'll use his, right? So he says that she said she feels down because she can't complete the things that she had in her mind, right? So she feels down about that. She's frustrated that she can't just be a go-getter or a person just is able to like rev themselves up, right? Now, you might be a person that's able to do that now, but there's a point in your history where you weren't that person. I know me, hey, I done started a podcast, I done started TikTok channels, and I done written books and stuff like that. Like, I'm very much a go-getter. But there was a point in time where I was very much that person sitting there like, oh, I want to get stuff done, but I just can't seem to get it off the ground. I don't feel motivated. What's going on? And I know when I was going through that phase, I felt like two things. I felt like down on myself, and I also felt a little angry because I'm like, I should be able to do this. I should be motivated. Why can't I get myself off the couch? And I sat with that and was just like, I guess this is the way things are going to be. And I had to eventually get myself out of that, right? But the point is, I went through what this woman is feeling. So if this were me in the conversation and she came to me and said, hey, just what you know, I'm really feeling down about myself because, you know, I can't seem to complete things and you seem to do a good job of it, but I just can't seem to get myself motivated and I always just think about that. My first response would be like, you know what? I totally get it. Like, you know, I know you're looking at me now like, oh, you get all this stuff done, but honestly, babe, like, I wasn't always like this. You know, there was a time where I would be just at home, sitting there all day, just like wanting to do stuff and had all these thoughts about things, but I was just thinking like, man, like, how do I get this thing started? What resources do I get? Like, I just don't know. And I just really felt down about myself and a little sad because I saw other people that were like getting ahead of me. And I'm just like, they're getting ahead and I'm not doing what I need to do. Like, oh, like, so babe, I totally feel what you're going through. And I'm sorry you feel that way because, you know, you are in fact great and you do a lot of stuff, but I understand where that feeling is coming from because, man, it sucks to be there, doesn't it? Now, in that moment in time, you've given no solution. All you did is spoke to the feeling that she was having, that you went through it, that it was a journey for you also, and that you know that where she's at right now, it may feel like hopeless, and you understand that exact feeling. Now, that is an answer that I have a woman be like, oh, really? Like, you felt that too? Like, oh my God, like I thought it was just me. I thought it was crazy because I'm like, yeah, like I feel motivated at times, but I don't know how to get things started and this and that. And then that's when you can go into, you know, babe, I went through the same thing and I feel that. And it's just like, you know, that feeling, like you can get to a place where you're having a different feeling. Like right now, the feeling you're having is going to sit with you for a little bit. And I felt it too. And it's just like, oh, it's awful. And then, you know, I just started thinking like, you know, what things could I be doing on a day-to-day basis to get me out of that? So like, let me ask you, babe, like what things have you been thinking about? Now you're putting it on her to start helping you think of a solution for her that she's going to actually think of her by herself. Because all you're doing now is just asking leading questions that lead her into like, what are you feeling now? What do you feel could potentially work for you? What things do you see potentially working out for you? And how do you see yourself hypothetically getting to that goal? Man, babe. And then just imagine, how do you think you're going to feel? How do you think you're going to feel when you finally get those things done? Oh man, that's going to feel like, and actually going to start thinking about what it feels like to get to those things. And now that you've helped her feel a different feeling about what it's going to feel like when she succeeds, now she's going to work towards doing things to get to that feeling that you helped her feel. So this is why, guys, again, there's a good, what I'm trying to say, there's a reason why it's good to know how to best talk to women and how women best feel things and how they take things in, because once you know that language, then you can get to them by speaking to them at their level and knowing how to get to them in a way that's going to allow you to be more effective in your communication. And guess what, guys? I have a whole 7-part audio series called 7 Steps to Better Communication with Women that's inside the Introvert Dating Success Academy community, which again, it's $47 a month. You have access to like all the programs I've ever done, all the podcasts I've ever done, all the ebooks I've ever done in that program. But you get access to knowledge like this that'll allow you to get a leg up on the competition. So hopefully, guy, that helps you out in your situation. But yeah, that's how you get into talking to women better and getting to them in a more emotional situation, you know? So hopefully that helps you guys out. Yes, empathy is very much a beautiful thing. And hey, as a guy that's an introvert and as a guy that I'm very much like, indifferent to a lot of things, including when I'm dating. Women will bring things to me that are like big deals. And I like how Corey Wayne has said this. I'm going to say it the way he said it. Our job as men is to take women's big problems and then shrink them down to where they're smaller. But you're only going to be good at that if you're a guy that's not anxious, that's not nervous, that is secure in who he is as a leader. And so that's why it behooves you to get into that space where you're able to be that guy, because then women are going to trust they can come to you with their problems and situations and be emotional and know that you empathize with them while also being a person that has wise counsel. Just want to put that out there. All right, so, and no, I don't wear eyeliner. Okay, so question in the chat is, what is the typical half-life of a friends with benefits? What is the way to keep them going longer? Okay, so I'll be honest with you, guy. The only times in my life that I've had friends with benefits, it was in situations where, like, I knew I was single for a season and not taking anybody seriously, and the other person was currently single and not taking anybody seriously, and we both knew, hey, we don't want to date each other for whatever reason, but we want to get our rocks off, and we're both willing partners of that. And we're friends, we get along great, but like realistically, we know we're not each other's everything long term. But if, you know, we got a night free and you're feeling it and I'm feeling it, let's do some stuff, you know? That's the only time I've had it work out where like legitimately no feelings got involved. We were able to just hook up, have a good time, and then be on our merry way. In some cases, just hooked up a couple of times and it's like, oh, you found somebody great. Oh, I found somebody great. Okay, whatever. And then we back out, you know? So, but that doesn't really happen too often because most of the time a friends with benefits starts out with one person wants to date the other person. The other person's like, I don't want to do that, but I'll hook up with you. And then the other person's around thinking, okay, I can eventually turn this into like more than just that, you know? So all that to say is that ultimately, if you're trying to keep a friends with benefits going longer, you got to think about, is it that you actually want it to be just a friends with benefits? Or is it that you actually want it to go longer so that way you can eventually convince the other person that this should be a thing? Now, if you yourself are like, no, Harry, I emphatically don't want to date her. I just want to hook up with her longer until I find somebody else. Then realistically, you just keep doing that until one of you decides you don't want to do that. And the thing is, with the friends with benefits thing, you can't really like force that to be prolonged. Like if you want it to be friends with benefits and then either A, she catches feelings and doesn't want that anymore, or B, she finds somebody else and doesn't want that anymore, then you kind of got to be like, okay, it is what it is. And at that point, you have a new decision to make, which is, can you realistically just be friends with this person while they're hooking up with other people? Or are you realizing, you know what? I was hooking up with them because I was hoping it would turn into something more. It's clearly not going to, and therefore, you know what? I'm just going to leave it to the wayside. That's for you to decide ultimately, you know? So I would say, in terms of keeping it, like, ultimately, whether you're hooking up with the person, dating them, just, you know, banging their brains out, whatever, this all boils down to respect. If you're able to respect them and how they want to move, then friends with benefits can last for as long as you guys both want it to, you know? But that also means if she decides to change her mind, not being an a-hole about it. So that's just real talk, you know? Oh, yeah. So I have lighting, the purple lighting, and it's kind of dark. I put my setting on camera to a little bit darker, so it's like I have nothing going on here. Like, this is all just like purple and blue lighting. So that's what's causing these colors to happen. If I turn these off, it's like, hold on a second, let's see. No, I just changed the colors. I do that, it's nothing. Now it's just brown, you know? So that's why that's happening. So kudos to good lighting, I guess. Let's see, there we go. Anyway. Yeah, see if there's anything else I want to answer on today's particular show. It's been a while since I've done a live, so I'm not used to talking for this long, even though it's only been like an hour and 10 minutes. So I got going on here. Okay. Let me see here. Okay. Oh, this is a good one. Okay. I was going to do a whole video on this, so I'll just do it now. All right, so let's talk about kissing on the first date. Yes, should you be doing it? But more importantly, what are the women in your life that you're trying to date thinking about when you're making this move? I had an interesting comment from a woman under one of my videos. And I think it was a video where I was talking about like kissing on a first date, second date, or third date. And so she said, I went on a date with an awesome dude who tried to kiss me on our first link up. I rejected it even though I wanted to. But I rejected it because I don't know that man, LOL. Get to know people before you just swap spit and bodily fluids. So this is a really important comment, and I'm glad this lady left this, because this speaks to this idea that regardless of how hot a woman is for you and how much in her head she's actually wanting to hook up with you, she's wanting to have a full-on makeout session with you, the reality is, even if she's feeling that on one end of her brain, the other end of her brain could be thinking, but realistically, he's a stranger. I don't know him all that well. We haven't spent enough time together for me to really feel completely comfortable. Like, I'm already looking at him as like, he could potentially be a good lay. He could potentially be a good, even great makeout session, but the part of me still needs to like really trust him a bit more. And so I need to get to know him a bit more before I decide to kiss him or get him to kiss me. Now, as a person that gives dating advice, I told you guys plenty of times, I've told you stories about women who I've kissed at first meetings, I've kissed on first dates, and so you would think I'd be like, yeah, always go for the kiss on the first date. Here's the thing though, for one, a kiss or a hookup on a first date is really one of those things that you as a guy have to really fully feel out, because if you're not careful, what's gonna happen is this, you're going on a date and you're already thinking about how hot she is. You saw her profile online. You met her previously at a party or through friends or whatever. She agreed to a date. And you're thinking about all the curves you want to drive down and how much you want to kiss her and touch her and all sorts of stuff, right? So you're going on the date already thinking, you know what? I'm going to bypass all my logic. I already know she's hot. I already know she's probably a good dating candidate. And so I'm going to go in for that first kiss and that first hookup, right? And so a lot of times that ends up tripping you up because you're thinking so much about this kiss that needs to happen by the end of the date or this hookup offer you got to try to put out there that you end up like having that be such the focal point, you forget to focus on actually showing her a good time, actually talking to her, actually asking her questions, actually seeing if you guys have things in common that are gonna make you guys last long term, you know? And so you being so much in your head about the kiss, you bypass all that stuff to where you are gonna be on this date not showing up in the best way possible. Because women can get a read for if you're on this date to just try to get her to hook up with you or to make out with her. They can feel that energy. I've been very good at going on dates and not giving the energy of, I'm here for a hookup or kiss. I was a virgin until I was 23. I've historically told all women, I can outweight you. So for me, it's not about the hookup. Do I want to hook up? Yes. Do I want to kiss? Yes. But if I do not get those things on date one, am I going to be butthurt? No, because more often than not, I'm not even thinking that a kiss or a hookup on the first date is possible. So because I have that thought process in mind, I go on dates thinking the only thing I want to do is show this woman a really fun time. I want to take her to a good dinner, to a good movie, to a good activity, and just show her the best time while at the same time really getting to know this person. This is my research project for the night, is to get to know her and show her a good time. And because I focus so much energy on that, I'm able to build up good vibes. I'm able to build up trust relatively quickly. And I find by the end of the night, there have been instances where, because I'm just focusing on having a good time, having a kiss or a hookup just happens to become part of the good time that now she wants to have, because I was just concentrating on showing her the best time in whatever capacity that means. Now, with that said, because I'm not focusing on the first date being a kiss, I find I've had way more success being able to get a kiss with a woman on a second date. Because that first date, I wasn't trying to make anything physical happen. She was able to just kind of relax. She wasn't trying to block me all night from like touches and kisses and things. And oh my God, what are you doing? You're trying to touch me So she was able to just kind of bask in her feminine and really get to sit there and relax and build up good vibes with me. She was able to, really see me and talk to me and get to know me. And then what happened? She went home and she got to sit there and think, man, I had a great time with Harry. You know what? That was one of the best dates I've had, because all these other guys would have been trying to touch me and talk about sex and all this other stuff. And Harry just showed me a good time and left. That was great. And then the second thought pops in, which is, wait a minute, but why didn't he try anything? I've literally had women do hey, so why didn't you try to kiss me on the first date? Or, oh, I know she didn't try to do X, Y, and Z, whatever. Because they're thinking, they don't realize when you give a woman the space by not trying to do a physical action like kiss her or make out with her, a whole different part of her brain opens up that she didn't know was there, which is, wait a minute, but I actually wanted that. See, when she's on a date with a guy that's trying to touch her and kiss her nonstop, she's so focused on, I don't want to do that, I don't want to do that, I don't want to do that, that no part of her brain opens up and says, but I want to make that choice to do that. And so when you don't do stuff, she goes home and thinks, but did I want stuff to happen? Is he the guy that I'd want to kiss me? Is he the guy that I'd want to hook up with? You know what? I think if it came down to it, I'd like to make the choice to have that guy kiss me. Oh my God, it's amazing, right? So I said to say this, is that ultimately, it's not the worst thing in the world to go for a kiss on a first date. Like I said, I've done it, and I've had reactions ranging from the woman definitely kissed me back to the woman kissed me, but then later on said, you know what, I actually wasn't comfortable with that on that first date. Can we delay a little bit? At which point I was like, sure, no problem. I was indifferent. I was like, oh, I went for the kiss a little too soon, but she still said yes to another date. Okay. And then date 3, she's stopping the car on the side of the road to make out with me, right? So it's not that it's the worst thing in the world to go for the first kiss on that first date. But what I am stressing to you is that there are going to be a lot of women that either aren't 100% ready for it, are only partially ready for it, or aren't ready for it at all. And so I found overall for women, you don't really lose too many points if you're not going for a first kiss on that first date. Some women might have been eager to do it, and then you don't do it, and they're just like, oh, okay, well, most women understand that more often than not, a kiss is going to happen on that second date. So they'll usually let that first date be a pass. Okay, I kind of wanted to kiss, but maybe he just wasn't feeling it, or he didn't know the move to make. Okay, I'll give him another chance because I had a really good time. That's typically what's going to happen if you don't make that kiss, right? But the second date, I found the second date, usually most women, this is the great thing, most women at this point have been trained to expect that a kiss is going to happen by date 2, and therefore they're typically more open to it happening on date 2 because that's just what people do. And women, if nothing else, are going to be following the letter to the law, you know? So then what I found happened, though, is that if by the second date, you're not making that first date kiss, that first kiss, that's when women will start to question things like, okay, like, is he secretly gay? Or is he really not feeling me? Is he dating other women? Am I disgusting? Like, what's going on, you know? So it behooves you, if you're going to go for a first kiss, it's not that you can't do it on the first date, but I found I got better results and a higher success rate when I waited for date 2 to do that kiss. Whether it's in the middle of the date, whether it's at the end of the date, ideally, you're being able to make that happen. Now, with that said, there are ways to set up the first date, the first kiss, to make sure that it goes through in a way that's not awkward and that gets you the results you want. I talk about that extensively. Say it with me now, in my Introvert Dating Success Academy community, which you can join today for $47 a month. You get access to all of my videos, ranging from my online dating videos to how to approach women, how to talk to them, how to get their number, the kind of first dates and second dates to go on, how to do that first kiss in a way that doesn't get you rejected, how to deal with when situations arise, like arguments and stuff, how to negotiate your way into a relationship. I got audio programs on how to better communicate with women. I got interviews with experts. Like, it's so much stuff in that thing. It's like jam-packed with like hundreds of hours of stuff, as well as programs designed to specifically walk you through from point A to point B in specific situations. So you can get all that stuff at the website today. But definitely, guys, get yourselves better informed on what to do when you're around women so you will have better successes, especially when it comes to things like first kisses and first hookups. So hopefully, guys, that helps you out. All right, I think that's good for my first time back. So hopefully you guys got a lot out of today's show. Thank you guys for joining. Thank you guys for all the super chats that you sent, as well as, you know, any cash apps that you guys sent. If you guys want your questions answered outside of this platform, I am recording like daily videos now that I'm just going to be putting up. So if you have questions you want me to answer, you can write me at harry@introvertdatingsuccess.com. If you have a situation you're going through that requires a more of a deep dive and is more urgent, then you can sign up for one-on-one coaching at the website. Just click the coaching tab at introvertdatingsuccess.com. Thank you guys so much for watching today's show. I'm Harry Wilmington, and I will catch you guys on the next one. I'm out. Peace.
You's a bad boy, but you can't stop, won't stop. You a high-earning, high-value, high-class man. You a high-earning, high-value, high-class man. You a high-earning, high-value, high-class man. You a high-class man. You a high-class man. You a high-earning, high-value, high-class